Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis. The attentive viewer will notice I haven't posted videos over the past couple of weeks. The staff of the international headquarters here of the multimedia entertainment conglomerate that is Papa Nick's Music took a little bit of time off over the past couple of weeks. We did we had a bit of a retreat. We did some leadership building exercises, some team building exercises. Oh, it was wonderful fun. We met with some of our closest professional associates. Hi, Chris, Macy, if you're watching. And we just generally had a good time, which is my snarky way of saying my wife and I went on holiday over the last couple of weeks. And I will say, if you are into taking cruises and you've never taken a Virgin cruise, check them out. It's good stuff, fun stuff. Anyway, we're back now, and we are jumping right back into Album of the Year. We're up to our fourth installment of Album of the Year. This week we're going to cover the years 1995 to 2004. I do expect that we'll be taking a break from Album of the Year over the next couple of weeks because, as I alluded to quite some time ago, I'm going to need a little bit more time to find some good quality runners up as we get farther along. Problem for another day. As a reminder, if this is your first foray into Papa Nick's Album of the Year, when I'm choosing my Album of the Year, I am not necessarily saying that this is the best album that was recorded that year, although these are all very good albums. They are all top-notch. They get A+ from me. I'm not necessarily even saying these are my favorite albums of the year, although I do dearly love all of these albums. This exercise is... it was inspired by watching construction workers mark underground cable lines in my backyard when my neighbor was having her fence fixed, and so that started me thinking, ooh, what would it look like if you marked the outline of your musical taste? Another thing that inspired this was one of my favorite scenes in the 1950s original version of The Thing from Another World. Or Another Planet? Another World, I think. Kenneth Tobey. Oh, wonderful, wonderful movie. Kenneth Tobey does really good in that movie. But there is a scene at the beginning when they're going out to see what is causing all the magnetic disturbance, and they can see something buried under the ice, and they all spread out to try to get the shape of it. And when they finally stop, they're all standing in a large ring, and that's when they realize, ooh, they've got a flying saucer. It's the same concept. We're trying to find the contours of my taste. So I am picking for each year my Album of the Year, which I think is particularly indicative of my taste. Cool? Cool. This is not a top 10 video, but what the hell? I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you should be drinking some Schofferhofer because, if you like Hefeweizen, is that how you say it? Hefeweizen? Anyway. If you like beer and grapefruit soda, oh, you'll love Schofferhofer. That's good stuff. It's been a while since I've done a top 10, so. Before we go any further, we have to talk about the subjectivity notice real quick. We firmly believe here at Papa Nick's Music that there's no such thing as objectively good or bad art. There is only art that we like or do not like. And as long as we keep that in mind, this is a wonderful conversation. It's entertaining, it's informative, it's your chance to see the world from somebody else's perspective. And I would argue that is always a good thing. The conversation, though, goes right off the rails real quick as soon as somebody in said conversation insists on being seen as objectively right. Oh, no, this album is objectively better than that one over there. No, it's not. There's no such thing as objectively better. The fact that you're using the word better means you're making a relative judgment. It is no longer objective. As long as we keep that in mind, this is a wonderful conversation. So I'm not making objective claims here. I'd appreciate it if you would refrain from making objective claims in the comments. Cool? Cool. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the albums of the year. As before, I'm going to give you some runners-up, some albums that I just gotta mention. That's the line on my spreadsheet. And then I'm going to give you my three runners-up, and then finally my album of the year. For 1995, kicking off this episode, we've got 5 albums that I gotta mention. I gotta mention the self-titled album by Collective Soul, if only for the song December, which I really loved at the time. I gotta mention the Ben Folds 5 self-titled debut because I really like Ben Folds. You're going to be seeing Ben Folds a lot cropping up on these. Gotta mention Chris Isaak with Forever Blue because, oh my God, is that a good album? When I'm talking about albums in almost every other context, if I'm rating albums, anything like that, I tend to avoid things like soundtracks and live albums, but I get to talk about them here. So, a soundtrack that was released in '95 is Brian Wilson's soundtrack to the Don Was documentary, I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. Oh my God, is that good? It's still my favorite version of Wonderful that I've ever heard. And then we've also got Pink Floyd's live album, Pulse. So you got to talk about all of these. But when it comes to Album of the Year, my third runner-up is an album that was briefly popular. It had one hit song on it, and then it just disappeared. The group disappeared, sank without a trace. They're one of these that I like a lot, and I don't know that there are all that many people who remember it. So, in my attempt to keep Dog's Eye View alive, my third runner-up is their 1995 album, Happy Nowhere, because, man, I like that album a lot. Dog's Eye View. Check it out. My second runner-up, Randy Newman released an album this year, and it's an interesting album. It's Randy Newman's Faust. Randy toyed with making a stage play, musical, contemporary musical about Faust. I think he may have actually gotten it staged at some point. But this was, okay, these are some of the songs that I've written for it, and I got some people to come in and help me sing them. Randy Newman, of course, plays the devil. Don Henley plays Faust. James Taylor plays God, and, I mean, James Taylor and Randy Newman doing duets as God and the devil. Oh, talk about your perfect casting. Linda Ronstadt's in it, Bonnie Raitt's it's a good album. A lot of good, strong performances. Really like Randy Newman's Faust. My first runner-up, for the longest time, it was my album of the year. Largely because it's one of my favorite albums. And that is Michael Nesmith's The Garden. His sequel to his earlier album, The Prison. These are the two albums that you're supposed to read the story as you're listening to the music, and the music is the soundtrack to the movie that plays in your mind. The thing I like about The Garden is that on this album, Nesmith largely avoided using lyrics in the songs, which makes it easier to read the book and listen to the music, but it's also some damn good music. So, first runner-up is Michael Nesmith's The Garden. My album of the year, though, if you watched the last episode, the last couple of years, 1983, my album of 93, my album of the year was Donald Fagen's Kamakiriad. 1984, my album of the year, or 1994, having a hard time with dates today. Maybe I need to drink more beer. 1993 was Kamakiriad. 1994 was Walter Becker's 11 Tracks of Whack, and 1995 is Steely Dan, Alive in America. I never would have thought that I would ever hear a Steely Dan live album. I had heard, a couple of bootlegs. They released their live version of Bodhisattva on the Citizen Steely Dan box set and all of that. But they were a band for such a short amount of time that it just the thought of having a live album was just, especially a live album that covers the later stuff, because from early on, I don't want to go and look it up, but it was just Becker and Fagen and whoever they drafted. But hey, they finally did it. They gave us Alive in America, and I think this is a wonderful, it's one of my favorite live albums, but I also love it. Kid Charlemagne. Babylon Sisters. I love Steely Dan, Alive in America. It's my album of the year, 1995. For 1996, I've got a handful of albums that we've got to mention. Remember, this is the 90s. A lot of bands are doing unplugged concerts, and Unplugged was a series of performances on MTV that was very popular. It breathed life into Eric Clapton's sluggish later career, and it did wonders for Kiss. Kiss Unplugged is a very good album. I like it. Some good performances on that. We've got John Mellencamp's Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky. We've got Chris Isaak's Baja Sessions, which I adore. We've got the Monkees with Justice. I've got a special place in my heart for Justice. I really like it a lot, but I am highly unusual among Monkee fans for that. We've got another live album. Bare Naked Ladies released their Rock Spectacle toward the end of '96. We have a soundtrack. Oh, That Thing You Do. I love that. It's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite soundtracks, and that's 1996. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But when it comes to Album of the Year, third runner-up, I should say it correctly. Talking about Bare Naked Ladies, they released Born on a Pirate Ship in 1996, their first album after original percussionist and pianist Andy Cregan left the band. They were down to a four-piece before they added Kevin Hearn. And Born on a Pirate Ship is just a wonderful album. At any given time, it vies to be my favorite Bare Naked Ladies album. So really like Born on a Pirate Ship. My second runner-up is the debut album of one of my favorite bands from this era of music, and that is the self-titled Fountains of Wayne. Oh my God, do I love Fountains of Wayne. And that all kicked off in 1996 with their eponymous first album. And then for the longest time, my actual album of the year was what is now my first runner-up, and that is Chet Atkins' Almost Alone, which I think is a brilliant album. A lot of very good guitar work on this. It's called Almost Alone because he is almost alone. Most of the songs on here are solo guitar, and I love that. I love listening to Chet Atkins play. But then I realized, oh no, I've got an album that I need to pump up even more, and that is Archaeology by the Ruddles. When the Beatles released their anthology, somebody jokingly, as I have read, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but somebody jokingly suggested to Neil Innes that the Ruddles should follow suit and release their anthology, and it became Archaeology. We've got the original Ruddles here. We've got Neil Innes. We've got Ricky Fataar. We've got John Halsey. And oh my God, do we have some good music on this. Ruddles, Archaeology, wonderful album, and it is my album of the year, 1996. 1997. There were not very many. If I had done this series, say early last year, there wouldn't be very many Gotta Mentions here. Two of my Gotta Mentions have come from work that I have recently done for other videos. Late last year, I did a deep dive into Daryl Hall and John Oates so that I could rank their albums, and that was the first time that I had heard their album from 1997, Marigold Sky, which I think is just a wonderful album. And this is the year that Paul McCartney released Flaming Pie, which I did not listen to the first time, but as part of my process of ranking Sir Paul's albums, I went through and listened to them. Also like Flaming Pie. So we got a couple of Gotta Mentions there from my latest work. We've got the Pet Sounds Sessions, a box set released by the Beach Boys, and that's wonderful. We also have an album that I had not heard of until I was, scanning through lists on Wikipedia and stuff like that, looking for albums to see if there's stuff that I had forgotten about. And I came across The Day Fingerpickers Took Over the World by Chet Atkins and Tommy Emmanuel. And I mean, if you like that kind of guitar playing, and oh my God, do I like that kind of guitar playing, you have got to check out The Day Fingerpickers Took Over the World, because it is fantastic. But when it comes to my album of the year, my third runner-up, an album, again, I'm willing to bet most of you have never heard of. I did not buy this album. I went to a Christmas party in the late 90s. Probably, it might have even been 97, 98, is that neighborhood? Went to a Christmas party, a bunch of my then wife's friends, and they were having a white elephant giveaway thing. And so it was my turn to pick something, and I'm walking up and down a table looking at what is there, and noticed that there was a CD there, so I thought, okay, sure, I'll take the CD. What the hell? Nobody stole it from me, and I ended up keeping it. So I ended up with a copy of Groove Masters Volume 1 by Preston Reed and Lawrence Juber. This was my introduction to Preston Reed. I brought this thing home and I looked at it, and it looks like it was made in somebody's, bedroom. I mean, the printing on the CD is off. The label is kind of cheesy. I mean, it does not scream professional release. So it's probably some kind of bootleg or something. But anyway, I listened to this thing, and oh my God, I like Chet Atkins, I like Tommy Emmanuel, and I like Preston Reed. They're all in that same group together as far as I'm concerned. I can listen to Preston Reed all day long. And I am glad that I went to that White Elephant sale or that White Elephant giveaway thing at that party that introduced me to Preston Reed. So my third runner-up, Groove Masters Volume 1. Coming up, my second runner-up. It's been a few weeks, a few years. I'm losing my sense of time doing these videos. But it's been a while since I've talked about Joe Jackson, so let's bring up Joe Jackson. 1997 saw the release of his Heaven and Hell album, an album where he devotes a song to each of the 7 deadly sins in an exploration of what we think of as sin and the nature of sin and all that sort of stuff. It's a very good album. A couple of the songs are fantastic. None of the songs are clunkers. The Anger song alone is worth the price of admission. But I really like Heaven and Hell by Joe Jackson. It's my second runner-up. My first runner-up is Sympathique by Pink Martini, because I love Pink Martini. I've seen Pink Martini in concert, 5-6 times. One of the most, of all of the concert performers that I have seen multiple times, they're up there toward the top in terms of the number of times that I've seen them. And I really like Sympathique. It's not their best album, but I really like it. But when it comes to Album of the Year, there was not much in the way of a contest here. My Album of the Year for 1997 is Ben Folds Five's Whatever and Ever, Amen. I was introduced to this album about 10 years after it came out. And this album and another one that's coming up pretty closely here, spoiler alert, were instrumental in maintaining my mental health during a rough patch I had in the late aughts, the 2006, 2007, 2008, that neighborhood. I went through a rough patch during that time in my life, and it is one of the reasons why I came out of it relatively unscathed. So Ben Folds 5, Whatever and Ever, Amen, belongs on the list. 1998. In 1998, we've got just a couple albums that I've got to mention. We've got a couple of live albums. One Night Only, the Bee Gees live album. BTO did a King Biscuit Flower Hour album that they released in 98. I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I think they recorded it in the late 80s. I'd have to look that up. But that's worth mentioning. Brian Wilson released Imagination, which I think is one of his top solo releases, so that's worth mentioning. Chris Rea released Blue Cafe, which is a very good album. But when it comes to Album of the Year, my third runner-up is John Mellencamp's self-titled John Mellencamp. Very strong album. His voice hasn't quite gone yet. Good album. My second runner-up, going through this pretty quickly. A mediocre year for music. My second runner-up is Fastball's All the Pain Money Can Buy. I really like Fastball. That's some good power pop there. My first runner-up is Chris Isaak, and in 1998 he released Speak of the Devil. And Speak of the Devil is one of those weird albums. I mean, for me, it came out of nowhere. I'm walking through a record store one day looking for something interesting that I can buy, and just generally, unaware that Chris Isaak has just released a new album, and I turned the corner and I'm looking at, bam, there it is. I hadn't heard anything about it, hadn't read anything about it, hadn't seen anything about it, and I thought, well, what the hell, I'll give it a try, and I took it home, and it's a pretty damn good album. I think it's highly underrated. It's one of his best albums. So, first runner-up of 1998 is Chris Isaak's Speak of the Devil. But, okay, yeah, I gotta include the Bare Naked Ladies here. 1998, they released their album Stunt, and from this point forward, they're now very well known in the United States. It's one of those things you can walk into a crowded theater and go, "It's been," and make people throw popcorn at you. And as overplayed as One Week was, especially considering how much of a trifle it is as a song, this is still a very strong album. Good songwriting top to bottom. I love the Bare Naked Ladies, and Stunt is an excellent, excellent album. So, album of the year 1998, Stunt. 1999. 1999, the albums that I gotta mention. We've got John Mellencamp's Rough Harvest, which I think is a gem of an album. It's very strongly recommended. Not quite making it onto the runners-up, but, I mean, just by a whisker. We've got the self-titled debut of Tal Bachman, Randy Bachman's son from Bachman Turner Overdrive. Pretty good album. We've got Ben Folds Five's unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner. And we've got Alan Parsons' Time Machine. So some good albums here that I got to mention. But when it comes to Album of the Year, third runner-up, again, Chris Rea, this time with The Road to Hell Part 2. I normally stay away from Part 2 on albums, but it's a pretty good album. My second runner-up, what the hey, let's talk about Joe Jackson some more. We've got Symphony No. 1, and I love Joe Jackson's symphonies. I loved Willpower when he released that back in the, early 80s? Late 80s. I don't care to look it up. I love Symphony No. 1. I like Joe Jackson's music. My first runner-up, the second album from Fountains of Wayne, Utopia Parkway, which a lot of Fountains of Wayne's fans really, really like. And I like it. I don't think it's as good as the ones around it, but I do like it. But hey, it's my first runner-up. My winner, though, the album of the year, this is the other album that got me through that rough patch, and that is Guster's Lost and Gone Forever, which, as much as I listened to this and Whatever and Ever Amen, and as much solace as I got from the music and from the quality of the songwriting, I think this one probably was doing more of the heavy lifting as far as maintaining my mental health during that time period. As a result, if I am making my ultimate list, if I am going to take all these albums of the year and rank them and make my top 10, which I am not going to do, but if I were to do that, this is going to be a contender to be definitely top 5 and arguably way up towards number 1. I don't know that it's got quite enough traction in my heart to be at number 1, but oh my God, I wouldn't be surprised if once I looked at all the albums, I decided, yeah, this is my favorite album of these. It's a very strong album. The songwriting is impeccable. The vocals are fantastic. Oh, I cannot say enough good things about Guster's Lost and Gone Forever. If you have never listened to this album, please do yourself a favor. Listen to this album. Then we get to the year 2000. Y2K. Oh, all of our computers are going to die. Oh, well, no, they aren't. 2000, we've got some good gotta mentions here. Gotta mention Steely Dan's Two Against Nature. Oh my God, they're doing studio albums again. Who would have thought? And I gotta mention it because it's Steely Dan, right? I mean, I don't think it's that great of an album, but yeah, gotta mention it. We've got one of my favorite live albums, Joe Jackson's Summer in the City, live in New York. ELO released their flashback box set. Good stuff to talk about. But when it comes to album of the year, my third runner-up is Warren Zevon's Life'll Kill Ya. My affection for Zevon's music, I mean, it's a little uneven in the 70s, and then, oh man, he takes off, and then it's a little bit uneven late 70s into the early 80s, but then he takes off again, and then it's and now 2000 and on, it takes off again. So get ready, there's more There's more Warren Zevon coming. Life Will Kill You, third runner-up. My second runner-up, I can't stop talking about Joe Jackson, even though last year I poo-pooed part twos of albums. Well, in 2000, Joe Jackson released Night and Day 2, his sequel to his original Night and Day. And that's a fantastic album. Some wonderful songwriting, some wonderful guest vocalist performances on that as well. Very good album. And of course, my first runner-up, this is the year that Bare Naked Ladies released Maroon. Their Maroon concert tour was the first time that I went to see Bare Naked Ladies. I've seen them since, I think, 9 or 10 times. They are the band that I have seen most frequently in concert, and it started with Maroon. So they got to be first runner-up. But my album of the year, Beckley Lamb Wilson with Like a Brother. Beckley Lamb Wilson is Jerry Beckley from America, Robert Lamb from Chicago, and Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys. They worked together to record a cover of Without Her. Yeah, Without Her. A Harry Nilsson song that they did for a Harry Nilsson tribute album a few years before this. And they were working on an album, and then Carl Wilson passed away. But they finished the album. Beckley and Lamb finished it, and then they released it. And okay, it's very much a dated album. It sounds like something that was recorded in the late '90s. It has a very distinct '90s sound to it. But the vocals on this are superb. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge Carl Wilson fan, although God knows I am. And that is good enough reason to say it. Jerry Beckley and Robert Lamb also sound very good on this record. This is a wonderful record. Strong songs. Carl's songs are stronger than his usual output. Good stuff. Very strongly recommended. Like a Brother, Beckley Lamb Wilson. And then 2001 came along. We've got a few albums that I gotta mention. The Bee Gees released This Is Where I Came In, and I had never heard it before I did my Bee Gees, Summer of the Bee Gees was that last summer or summer before? It doesn't really matter. Back there sometime, I did my Summer of the Bee Gees. And This Is Where I Came In is a decent album. This is the year that Paul McCartney released Wingspan, and while I will go to my grave shaking my fist at the fates that he didn't include Arrow Through Me on this album, it's a pretty good collection of Wings material. The Beach Boys released Hawthorne, California. Wonderful collection of stuff that, we're starting to clean out the vaults at this point. Billy Joel released Fantasies and Delusions that he wrote, did not perform, but he wrote. And I enjoy listening to Fantasies and Delusions. I think it's pretty good. Kiss released their box set, creatively titled The Box Set. And of course I snapped that thing up. But when it comes to Artist of the Year, I've got 4 albums here for the 3 runners-up in the actual album itself. I've got a very close race here. This is one of the strongest years as far as my top 4 goes of all of these that I've done. My third runner-up turned out to be the one that ended up last among these 4, Electric Light Orchestra's Zoom. As much as I loved the album, and as much as I was so happy when they released it, and so disappointed when they couldn't generate enough interest in terms of ticket sales to carry through with the tour that they were planning on doing. Man, I lost that sentence almost immediately. Still, I love the album. And it's my third runner-up. My second runner-up, is Ben Folds' solo "Rockin' the Suburbs." A lot of good humor on that album and a lot of very good musicianship. Ben Folds, I think, is a wonderful songwriter and a brilliant piano player. My first runner-up, an album that nobody has ever heard, and that is the last album by The Knack, Normal Is the Next Guy, which is a fantastic album. If you've not heard Normal Is the Next Guy, give it a try. If you've not heard any Knack beyond My Sharona, listen to this music, please. I know. Nobody cares about the Knack but me, but still, Normal Is the Next Guy. Put it on your list. But my album of the year, unusual. I like this artist, But I'm not a huge fan of this artist. I really like this first album, and then the later albums were kind of hit and miss. Occasional bits that I like, and nothing that I really dislike, but nothing that grabbed me as much as John Mayer's Room for Squares. Oh my God, was this album big? Looms large in my mythology. I love this album. There's not a bad track on it. Throw a dart. It's wonderful. There's good songwriting on here. There's good singing on here. There's decent guitar playing. I mean, come on. Room for Squares. Fantastic album. It established a standard that on later albums hurt my sense of how good he is, because this one was so good. It's one of the reasons why I don't think of myself as a John Mayer fan. I think of myself as a Room for Squares fan. Which gets us to 2002. And in 2002, we got Pet Sounds Live, Brian Wilson and his band. We've got Ben Folds Live, solo on his piano. That's a fantastic live album. And then the live album trifecta. The Beach Boys released Good Timin' live at Nebworth, that was recorded back in, 80, 81, something like that. All great live albums. Fantastic. We've got Chris Rea with Dancing Down the Stony Road. Very good Chris Rea album. But when it comes to Album of the Year, this batch is a little iffy compared to the previous year. My third runner-up is Norah Jones' Come Away With Me. Kind of similar to last year with John Mayer. I really like this album. But when it comes to Norah Jones overall, while I don't dislike her music, no, I'm a fan of Come Away With Me. My second runner-up is from the Texas band Bowling for Soup. They released Drunk Enough to Dance. I like Bowling for Soup. They've got a good sense of humor. They know how to write a catchy, hooky power pop tune, and they've got the right level of irreverence and general lack of seriousness. I like Bowling for Soup. My first runner-up, mentioned him a couple of years ago, and here he almost got Album of the Year. We've got Warren Zevon again, this time with My Rides Here, which is a fantastic album. But my Album of the Year, I'm finally able to give one to Chris Isaak, because I've been wanting to for quite some time now. Chris Isaak released Always Got Tonight in 2002. I think this is a wonderful album. I think actually Speak of the Devil is probably a little bit better of an album, but against this competition, this one's going to win. I strongly recommend Always Got Tonight, strongly recommend Speak of the Devil, strongly recommend his Baja Sessions album, strongly recommend Forever Blue. I can go through. I like Chris Isaak. Always Got Tonight, fantastic album. 2003, this far away, this close to the end. 2003, the Gotta Mentions include Cyndi Lauper's At Last. I normally turn up my nose at the aging pop star who decides to take on the Great American Songbook, but god damn, Cyndi Lauper can sing, and man, she does a fantastic job on this album. I love At Last. Fleetwood Mac released Say You Will, which is a decent album. Jack Johnson released On and On, which I like a lot. The Bare Naked Ladies released Everything to Everyone. And the Beatles released their heavily processed Let It Be Naked, which I actually like better than the original Let It Be. I don't care if the vocals have been pitch corrected. I still like it better. But we're not talking Album of the Year with these albums. No. For Album of the Year, our third runner-up, what the hey, let's talk some Joe Jackson again. 2003, Joe Jackson released Volume 4, which was really the Joe Jackson Band. He reunited with his original Joe Jackson Band bandmates. Graham Maybe on bass, who never really left, Dave Houghton on drums, and Gary Sanford on guitar. And they recorded Volume 4. They did a tour. Volume 4, fantastic album. My second runner-up for this year, 2003, is Steely Dan's follow-up to Two Against Nature. In 2003, they released Everything Must Go, which I think is head and shoulders, towers above Two Against Nature. I'm glad that they recorded Everything Must Go. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a capstone album that is worth being the capstone. My first runner-up, I've mentioned him a couple of times now, and I'm going to keep mentioning him. We've got Fountains of Wayne, this time with Welcome Interstate Managers. This time they are starting to get a national public, a national audience, a national fan base, because Stacy's Mom has got it going on, and Stacy's Mom is on this album. But my album of the year, I've been alluding to this, Warren Zevon. In the late 90s up into the 2000s, Warren Zevon's songwriting is very sharp. Warren Zevon himself was starting to falter. 2003, he released The Wind, and it was released, I believe, I would look it up, but it breaks my heart to read about it. I believe it was released a week after he died, or a week before he died. I think he lived long enough to see the release of the album. He recorded the album knowing that he had a terminal cancer diagnosis. He was planning to do whatever kinds of therapies would be necessary, chemotherapies, radiation therapies, whatever, but he wanted to record the album first while he had the energy to do it. I have seen the documentary that goes with this that just it is heartbreaking. And some of the songs on this album are just Keep Me in Your Heart is possibly the most emotionally raw, the most emotionally sincere, the most emotionally touching song that I think I've ever heard. It is a song that, if I were thinking, okay, I'm gonna make a career for myself as doing Warren Zevon covers. I'm gonna join a Warren Zevon tribute band. The one song that he recorded that I would never be able to do is Keep Me in Your Heart, because oh my God! But this album is just, it is wondrous. It was a titanic effort on his part to get it done, but God damn, he knocked it out of the park. Warren Zevon, The Wind, 2003's album of the year. Which gets us to 2004, the final year of this episode. We've got some gotta mentions here. We gotta mention the debut of Los Lonely Boys. I've talked a lot about things that I've seen in concert, either in person or in footage, on film, that kind of thing, that have impressed me. It impressed me, I mentioned when I was talking about Stanley Jordan, I think that was last week, or the last episode, that he could play piano with one hand and guitar and one on the other, melody and chords, and then trade. That was just it impressed me when I saw footage of the Monkees in concert in their heyday in 67, before Peter left the band, before the show was canceled, before they made Head and everything just kind of fell apart, because the segue between playing, I think it was Steppin' Stone, that would then turn into Mickey doing a James Brown kind of thing across the front of the stage, which meant that Mickey had to get out from behind the drums and get up to the front of the stage while the song was still going. So Davey came around behind him with a pair of drumsticks and just stood there and started hitting that cymbal with one hand, and then Mickey started inching out of the seat, and Davey just kind of stepped in for it. And I've never seen a band that switches drummers in middle of song and they don't lose the beat. I mean, it was amazing. One of the amazing things I've seen is Los Lonely Boys in concert. The way they trade their instruments, the way they play each other's instruments is impressive. I like Los Lonely Boys a lot. It's the reason I knew there was a reason I went off on that tangent. Other gotta mentions, Brian Wilson released Getting In Over My Head, which is an okay album, but it's got a couple of really wonderful spots, including his reimagining, resurfacing, polishing off of an old song that Carl had been working on with him called Soul Searchin', which pretty good song. Alan Parsons released A Valid Path. The Bare Naked Ladies released Bare Naked for the Holidays, which is one of my favorite holiday records. Joe Jackson Band released Afterlife, the album that they recorded on the tour that they were promoting Volume 4 with. I'm having a hard time talking about tours today. But when it comes to Album of the Year, my third runner-up, I mentioned Pink Martini a couple of years ago, and this year we've got Hold On Little Tomato, which I think is their best album. I really like Hold On Little Tomato. I know Sympathique got up higher in the runners-up, but that was because of the competition of the year. Pink Martini, or Hold On Little Tomato, I think is the better album, and that cover song alone, or the title track alone, Hold On Little Tomato, is a fantastic song. I really like Pink Martini. My second runner-up is, the Animal Liberation Orchestra, ALO, with their album Fly Between Falls, which I think is wonderful. ALO is one of those artists that I came across there in that 2006-2008 span of time when I was desperately looking for music, listening to adult contemporary stations on the satellite service I had at the time. When I found Guster's Lost and Gone Forever, when I found Ben Fold Five's Whatever and Ever Amen, ALO was one of the bands that I found then. I found Fly Between Falls. I found Roses and Clover, which is going to be coming up here in a couple of years. And it was through ALO that I then found Jack Johnson. Most people who come to ALO come to him through Jack Johnson because Zach Gill, the keyboardist and one of the singers of ALO, is the keyboardist and background singer for Jack Johnson. So I did it backwards. Oh, well. But Fly Between Falls, fantastic album. And, of course, my first runner-up, Brian Wilson's Smile. Oh, he finally finished it, and it is fantastic. The only thing that keeps it from being just, gushingly perfect is he doesn't have Carl and Al and, Mike and, Bruce and Dennis singing along with him. But the Wondermints sing very well, and I really like Brian Wilson's Smile. I would prefer to listen to his version of Smile than the Beach Boys' Smile sessions that they released, for whatever that's worth. But Smile, as big as it is, Fly Between Falls, as great as it is, Hold On Little Tomato, as much as I love that album, these are not Album of the Year. My Album of the Year for 2004. Okay, before I hold this up, remember, I'm not necessarily saying this is the best album of the year, although I think it is a very good album. I think it is one of the most underrated albums I've ever come across. I'm not necessarily saying this is my favorite album, although I very much adore it. I'm not saying that this is a better album than Brian Wilson's Smile. Oh, God, no. What I'm saying is, if you want to understand why I like music, if you want to understand what it is about music that is so important to me, why is it that when I talk about an artist that if we want to get to the heart of this thing, you have to understand why I like William Shatner's Has Been. Now, I can hear the rotten vegetables hitting the monitor from here. I know, it's William Shatner. What the fuck are you talking about? You're putting William Shatner above Brian... Are you... Can't even finish the sentence myself. Yes, I understand that. This is a fantastic album. And it is my album of the year for several reasons. Reason number one, the sheer audacity of it. I mean, William Shatner recorded The Transformed Man back when Star Trek was big and people were looking for ways to cash in on this this gravy train, and somebody had the bright idea of having Bill Shatner do dramatic monologues, scenes from Shakespeare, interspersed with him doing dramatic recitations of pop tunes, and somebody thought this would be a good idea. I'm willing to bet most people thought, it'll sell a few copies because it's got Bill Shatner on the cover, and Star Trek is popular, all right? It was, in nobody's estimation, a good album. It's one of those things that people own and listen to ironically for the most part. And so this is, he had established himself as that kind of cheesy, tongue-in-cheek almost. He used to do a version of Rocket Man on talk shows, right? I mean, this is Will. Oh, come on, this is William Shatner. But that's not what he's doing here. I mean, yeah, these are recitations. He's not singing, thank God. But he's dealing with actual good original work here. He wrote much of this. He didn't write all of it, and I'm willing to bet a lot of these tracks that have, W. Shatner as a writing credit, it's one of those where, okay, I'm gonna copy this in my handwriting so I can read it easier, and that gets me a co-writing credit. But I know that there are some of these things that he primarily wrote. The audacity is part of it. The fact that it's as successful as it is, despite that audacity, is part of it. The songwriting on this album is glorious. Part of that is due to Bill Shatner. A lot of it is due to Ben Folds. Ben Folds produced this thing and co-wrote with Shatner. And oh my God, those are good. There are some artists who show up to augment the sound. Joe Jackson pitches in on the Shatner's cover of Pulp's Common People, which I think is better than Pulp's version. I'm sorry. Brad Paisley shows. I mean, there's a lot of good talent on here, but there's just a lot of really good music, and it is. I mean, it's William Shatner with a slam dunk. Are you fucking kidding me? We have got to honor that. Album of the year, William Shatner has been. If you're sputtering in anger that I've put this where I have, if you've never actually listened to it, please do me a favor, listen to it. Then tell me I'm an idiot. I mean, you can tell me I'm an idiot first if you want to, but. And those are my albums of the year for the years 1995 to 2004. And yes, I had to look that up. Jesus Christ. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Yeah, I'm sure you do. Drop that comment down below. I always love hearing from you. Tell me what your albums of the year are. Which are the albums that shaped your sense of what good music is, what good music should be? I always love having that conversation. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the like button. While you're down there clicking, if you've not already done so, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the subscribe button. I know it costs you nothing, but it means the world to me, so I very much appreciate it. Thanks again for hanging out with me today, and I hope that the rest of your day is untroubled. See you soon.